there's a lot in that statement, isn't there? At first read, it's like, are you kidding me? Why would you, this person's lying in a hospital bed with scars on their neck, and you're asking them, telling them they must not be very good at it because you're still here. I think it's wonderful to break patterns in people sometimes. We can use that little bit of battle cry, what's happening through me instead of what's happening to me, is a first step of something good happening through us.
Today's guest is Jim Paluch, helping individuals and organizations turn ideas into action for 35 years. His message has literally changed the lives and businesses of thousands, yet Jim prefers to be regarded as a motivational listener rather than speaker. Jim's first 3 books have sold over 600,000 copies, and founder of Come Alive Outside, non-profit organization that helps to form collaborative projects that inspire children and adults to live healthier lives outside. Jim released his 4th book, The Depressed Motivational Speaker, which pulls lessons learned from his adventures on the road working with people, as well as his personal battle with depression. Welcome, Jim. I'm really excited for this conversation, and I absolutely love the title of your new book, The Depressed Motivational Speaker. But we'll go more into that. So tell me, after just reading that, what is one of the most courageous things that you have done?
That's such a good question, Anita, and thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be here. I have thought, I know that question was coming, and I've thought about it, and the thing that comes to mind is I'm not sure if I've done the most courageous thing yet. I think it's a humbling question when you think of so many people that are battling big things today, whether it's a mother getting up and getting her kids on a school bus so she can get off to work, or somebody battling cancer. But the most courageous thing that I've done, I think, is after 34 years is choosing to retire and try a different lifestyle than jumping on planes and being up on stage. And I'm going to master that. It's been about 9 or 10 months, and I'm enjoying it. And then probably another courageous thing is telling the world that, hey, I was a motivational speaker, but I also battled depression, because that doesn't always fit in the equation in people's minds. And maybe another courageous thing is getting on here with you this morning. So we'll see how we do.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for being here. One of the things I'd love to ask you about is you help individuals and organizations turn ideas into actions. Tell me more about that.
So I spent a lot of time with hundreds of companies, mainly in the landscape profession. I'm a landscape architect, so there are great companies, large and small, all across North America that we worked with. And what we found is I had a pretty good gift of coming into an organization, pushing them out of their comfort zone, getting people to think in different ways, to communicate, and really to realize the opportunity that they have in their businesses to grow, either as owners or leaders or as an employee, is a choice they all have to make. And so learning to take ideas, things that come up, and how to turn them into action instead of just having ideas. So many companies are great at just having ideas. So many of us are great at just having ideas, but being able to take them and turn them into actionable results is really, there's some magic behind it, and it has to be intentional. And that's what we've helped companies do, and people.
So, what took you on your journey of being a motivational listener, as you put it? Did this naturally fall into place with your work, or did this come from your experiences?
Well, I realized I would sit in conference rooms with one-on-one coaching with people, or in small groups, and it just occurred to me that I could motivate more people if I could learn to listen to them, be good at asking questions, be good at communicating, be good at following up with them on things that they were talking about. But I believe all of us could learn to motivate people by becoming better listeners. And so many times we are maybe in that mode of talking to people where we're wanting, we're they're talking
Mhm.
to us and we're saying, okay, in our mind we're saying, okay, come on, come on, come on, come on, get done talking so I could tell you something really important or really intelligent or really smart. And that is a habit that I think we can all learn to break, and just to really connect with people, to just really listen and to make a difference. And I think it's throughout the past couple of decades that's been not only a successful strategy for helping people, but Anita, it has been a crash course in
Mhm.
life for me. And I've certainly learned more from other people than I believe they'll ever learn from me, and I'm grateful for that.
I totally agree with that. For my personal point as well, we always learn so much from other people than what we could give them.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
totally agree with that. Tell me about your new book. I'm really excited for this conversation because I just love the title of it, The Depressed Motivational Speaker. So what was the catalyst for that?
The throughout all of the years, I would sit in wonderful
Mhm.
boardrooms and meetings, or in one-on-one, or sitting in the front of a truck with a landscape foreman or supervisor. And I was always touched when people would get emotional about things that they were going through in their life, and things. I guess it was the ability to ask questions that had people opening up and feeling comfortable with letting tears flow, or telling about the things or the feelings that they were having. And because I was having a lot of those same feelings, I was wanting to. Sometimes there was times I was thinking, "You think you've got
Mhm.
problems? If or you think you need help from me, you're in worse shape than you thought." Type of a feeling. But so
Yes.
day in and
Mm.
day out, I saw that and I heard it. And then personally, I battled it. I battled depression probably from my youth all the way
Mhm.
through high school and college, and raising kids with a wonderful wife, and even up till today. I mean, I am still you still battle it. You get better at it. You still learn about it. And that's so seeing people, my own experience. And I sometimes think we're our best laboratory if we just
Mhm.
stop and listen to ourselves and pay attention to ourselves. It, it, it made me think, okay, let me really take time to explore this a little bit deeper. So that was the catalyst of what can I learn for myself about writing this book, from myself, and how
Mhm.
could I hopefully help more people with writing it. And we have. It's been fun, energizing,
Mhm.
wonderful to get the emails that come where people say, I read the book, I talked to my spouse, I talked to my doctor, I'm going to go get
Mhm.
counseling, and or get help, or start to
Mhm.
exercise, or whatever it is that they choose to do differently. So yeah, that was the catalyst. And I know I've also thought this, Anita, that after writing the book, and the first books were probably 9 months to a year type of writing in the evenings kind of things, or writing on airplanes.
Mhm.
This was probably a 2.5 year journey of writing the book. And I remember going through it
Mhm.
somewhere later in the cycle, in the process, thinking, you know what, if I don't sell a single book, this has been a worthwhile process, because
Mhm.
a lot of things opened up for me. I think everybody should write a book and see what's inside their heads and let it out, even if no one ever reads it except
Absolutely.
yourself.
Absolutely, because I'm writing my memoirs as well, and
Yeah,
I totally agree on that with
yeah.
you. You read the book as a novel. How did that approach come?
I there's a couple reasons. One, I've always been inspired by books by Og Mandino, a writer back in the '60s and '70s. Robert Persick, who wrote Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and they were some true
Mhm,
stories. They're really a lot of their own personal stories, but they were written in such a way that that they cause you to think. You know, you're not just reading about somebody saying, "Hmm, that's nice. Oh,
mhm,
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah." It is. You can think. You think the books you can and as an author it keeps me interested. I get bored writing about myself, but I would write that the novels, all four of them have been novels, and I would write them and think I couldn't wait to sit down to see what happened next, kind of as I typed it. And so the story evolved in the creative process, and it was fun. But the most important thing, I think, is it allowed me to really, instead of talking at people in a book, it allowed me to set up a situation where I'm talking with
mm.
people in a book. It's not, here's what you should do. You should do this. You should do this. You
Love
should
that.
do this. Kind of the approach of writing it as a novel, and characters and personalities is you can ask questions. You can present ideas in a way that what if we did this? What if we tried this? What if we
Mm,
worked on something together? And so that idea of
yeah.
getting people to think, maybe play it over in their own mind, I always believe helped us get a deeper understanding of the concepts in the book. It doesn't mean autobiographies and biographies, fiction nonfiction books are not great. This is a fiction based on fact that causes us to think, and that was the process behind writing it as a novel.
Yeah, absolutely love that. That's brilliant. So, how did you come up with the inspiration of the characters in the book?
There's I love those characters. It's funny, through all the books that I've written, we all fall in love with the
Mm,
characters, and as we were writing them, even as my two
mm.
boys were young, we'd be at the dinner table, we'd be talking about the book that I was writing at the time and the characters, and they almost became relatives or uncles or aunts, and so all of these
Oh,
characters, the characters in the books, are combinations of stories and people that I've met through the years. The depressed motivational speaker, Michael, in the book is probably the closest to me, of course, and a lot of his struggles in the first part of the book are the kind of things that I would go through as a motivational speaker, and the intensity of it, and then you got to catch your breath and get up on stage, and nobody saw the projector didn't work, or this didn't work, and right before the
yeah.
slides are wrong on your PowerPoint, and all that intensity that comes with it. So I've had people say it was fun to get a behind the
Mm,
scenes look at motivational speakers or presenters. A couple of the characters were people that I heard about through other people, and then one was absolutely an intern for me 20 years ago. His name is
oh,
Thomas
wow.
in the book. And Thomas, we kind of
Mhm.
lost touch over the last 5 7 years, and I wrote about Thomas. He was from Texas, just an incredible, funny personality that but had his struggles and his battles, and I thought we better get a hold of Thomas and talk to him about this. And so my Linda, my assistant, got a hold of Thomas. We watched a
Mhm.
podcast that he did, and it was like watching my character right on screen. And come to find out, he had grown
Uh-huh.
and had developed a recovery center in Tucson. That was really an interesting thing to find, and
Mhm.
he is helping people as well. And uh, and then the doctor, this renegade psychologist that pulls the four
Yeah, tell
main
me more
characters.
about that. my next question.
Yeah, she's quite a
Yeah.
lady, isn't she? I just she is a combination of probably my alter ego of how I ran my events, my seminars. We had in North Carolina, we had
Mm,
a place where we would bring 15 acres. We brought them on the side of a mountain. We would bring people from New York and Chicago and get them out into the woods for 2.5 days.
mm,
Teach them to throw tomahawks. Teach them to paint. Teach them to open up, live on, just express how they're feeling,
mm,
set goals, and so she applies a lot of the things that we used towards making companies better and leaders better leaders. That was a piece of my thought process. Can I take
mhm,
what we do for companies to beat problems in an organization, and can we apply that to beating
mhm.
anxiety and depression? And so
Yeah.
she's a cool lady in the book, and just her approach and her style
Mhm, mm,
is I think what is mindfulness at its best. She's kind of a blend between Mother Teresa and a
mhm.
linebacker in the book, and so
Wow.
I like her
Yeah.
approach, and I've enjoyed writing about her.
The psychologist in the book critiques a patient's approach to failed suicide by stating, "You must not be very good at it, you're still here." Why would a psychiatrist make such a cruel statement? What was the thinking behind that?
Well, it is. It's a. There's a lot in that statement, isn't there? At first read, it's
Yeah.
like, "Are you kidding me? What?
Mm,
Why would you? This here, this person's lying in a hospital bed with scars on their neck, and you're asking them, and telling them they must not be
mm,
very good at it because you're still here." I think it's wonderful to break patterns in people
mm.
sometimes, and um,
Yes.
I think it's interesting that we could take an approach of, oh, you committed suicide, or tried or attempted it. Why did you do that?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
that immediately takes us backwards
mhm.
and back. And I think this is my personal feelings on it. And in talking with people and other
Uh-huh.
psychologists, um, depression is a centered me focused, all our focus comes back to us, and I think the instant we can get it off of
Mhm.
that, like, okay, that happened in the past, it doesn't matter anymore. What's next? What are we going to do next? And so in that scene,
Absolutely.
and in a couple of those
Mm,
scenes when she says that to patients, you must not be very good at it, you're still
mhm,
here.
mhm.
In the book, it's able to stop them, and now she's able to, let's just move forward just a little bit. And as long as we keep going
Yeah.
back,
Mm,
we're not we're not going to move forward on it. And I think, and that's been helpful to me. That's been helpful to me in writing the book,
yeah.
is thinking there, what's next? What's next? What's the
Yeah. I
simplest thing
love
I
it.
can do to move forward? The simplest thing that I can do, and um,
Absolutely.
so breaking
Yes.
our patterns, getting us moving forward, looking forward, and being courageous. It certainly takes courage sometimes to take that next step, even in a
Mhm.
depressed state when we're laying in bed staring up at
Definitely.
the ceiling,
Mhm,
thinking.
mhm,
I can remember doing that. I
mhm,
would work all day in an office, and in the office, and the things that happen there,
mhm,
have a talk I would have to go someplace that night and give, and can remember coming home in the afternoon and laying in bed with a migraine headache and down and blue, and thinking, how am I going to go motivate somebody this evening? I can't even move off this bed. So it made me
mhm.
think. I remember later, if I could just get my finger to come up and touch my nose,
Mm,
that broke the pattern. And then what that, well, maybe my foot could get on the
absolutely.
ground.
Mm,
And so
mhm,
thinking about getting the focus off
mm,
myself or off of ourselves, and simple
mm,
steps to move forward. There's a wonderful book by Dr. Maurer called One Small Step, Robert Maurer, that is about
mm.
the best book that I've come across in understanding that piece of just one small step can change our lives.
Absolutely, definitely. So, what is the difference about the approach the characters go through to overcoming depression? I mean, I know we're saying about
There's
discussing the next step. So, what is
there's a
important about that
strategy
question as well?
there's a strategy in the book, Anita, that we tried to put together, and I think strategies are important. I think strategies give us
Mm,
something to have some confidence in, to know the next steps, to know where we're headed. Now
mm,
they characters didn't fully know, but the doctor knew in the book. And so one
mhm.
of the things that is very different in the approach is it was for people who did not know each other, that this doctor was sharp enough to create a
Okay.
team around, and so they were going to get better together, and no one was leaving treatment or leaving the farm, and you'll have to get the book to understand more of that, but until everybody had reached their goals, everybody made it to a point that they were ready to move forward. So you
Mm,
have this interdependency,
mhm,
and that works in companies too. This interdependency, knowing that sales can't be successful unless operations does what they need to do. Operations can't be successful unless sales does what they. So there's this
mhm,
interdependency. So creating that, everybody understanding
mhm,
what's next, and then there was an approach of practicing doing the right things right. And in the book, I use the examples of learning to throw tomahawks,
mm,
of all things. They learn to throw tomahawks together, and the doctor sets a goal for them that nobody's leaving the farm until they are all able to stick 50 tomahawks in a row. So that's 200 straight, four people, 200 straight tomahawks. And that drives home the idea of learning how to throw a tomahawk every day, going through the same thing. Practice doing the right things right is is another part of that strategy, and so pulling together, understanding what's next, practice doing the right things right, and then we focused on the idea of focusing on what's happening through you as opposed to what's happening to you, and
mhm.
that became a battle cry.
Yes, I love that.
I think depression and suicide again. My 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 father taught me how to be
Mhm,
depressed. I watched him my whole life growing up getting depressed, so he taught me well. Just observing and the habits that he had. But boy,
mm,
that's where I thought back to every time Dad was depressed, the conversation was about himself, and he was the greatest, friendliest, beautiful
mm,
man. Worked in a factory, put two kids through high school and college, and beautiful things. But when he would allow his thoughts to go back, focused on him, what's happening to him, um, that's
yeah,
when depression set in. So if we can use that little bit of battle cry, what's happening through me instead of what's happening to me, even if it's picking up the phone and calling a friend, is a first step of something good happening through us. And so that another thing that
different,
was
yeah.
different is taking the family
Mm,
out of it. In the book, they're not
mm,
allowed to call home. They're not allowed to. They were, if they were allowed, if they wanted to call home, they could call home, and then they were going to be on a plane the next day from the farm to go back home. So the discipline of let's step back and let's get well and let's use family
mhm, yes,
as a motivator to get better, to go see him as opposed to maybe, as least as I looked at it in the book, as a crutch to fall back on. And so
Definitely.
those
Yeah.
four imaginary characters go through some real experiences that
Mhm.
if all that it does is help all of us as readers just think, hey, I could do that, or what if I did that, or I
Mm.
understand what they're saying there. Maybe that's something I should think about. That's a positive for me.
Yeah, definitely. You seem to suggest that the mental health profession needs to step up their approach on treating depression. What is that based on?
Yeah, boy, did you see me just fidget in my seat when you started asking that question? It is a
Mm.
I really have wondered about that part of it. It's something that came I
Mm.
would go to
Mm.
counseling, sit in over the past 3 or 4 decades, and sit in counseling and end up counseling the
Mhm.
counselor, and not
Oh gosh.
not really
Yeah.
not really feeling that I was moving forward. I was moving forward, and again,
Mhm.
it was all this focus back. So there's a throughout the book is this undertone
Mhm.
of the profession. The mental health profession has done so many great things. If you think how far we've come in the past hundreds of
Mhm.
years in treating mental health issues, but I think we are making a breakthrough. And I use the idea of the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk when that plane took off is like where we're at right now
Yes.
in the mental health profession when we start understanding mindfulness
Mhm.
and understanding the power
Mhm.
of getting outside and connecting
Mhm.
again with nature and exercise and
Definitely.
all of those things were
Yes.
there. And I think as mental health professionals continue to grasp this and build on it, it took men thousands of centuries or hundreds of centuries to fly that 114 feet at Kitty Hawk, and then within 50 or 60 years, they're circling the planet
Mm.
in a in a rocket and landing on the moon, and now we're sending to Mars.
Definitely.
So we're there. We're there. We
Mm.
need to keep moving forward. We need to not rely so much on the medicines and the prescriptions, although they're important and I value them myself.
Yeah.
There's things we can do to move beyond that,
Absolutely.
and that's the challenge. That's a new frontier, I think, for the mental health profession.
So, what impact has the book had on your personal battle with depression?
One again, as I said, writing it allowed me to sort through things, to think about some things. It
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
it there's a place in the book that I write about for the main character, for the Michael, the main character, where that seed crystal of
Mhm.
depression was planted. And it's a true story for me too. I used the story that I remembered, and it allowed me to think back even to the age of 4 years old. Just when that first little dose of depression as a strategy, or feeling down, or drawing attention to me as a strategy, worked to get something that I wanted. And then from that point, it
Uh-huh.
it just became habit. So that was great for me to understand that it was planted someplace. It's really interesting to think where that was planted. And it was good for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
The other thing is allowed me to say, wait a minute, I am a depressed motivational speaker. I can still get up on stage and I can still excite a group of people as well as anyone. I think I was very, very good at it. But I could also be
Yes.
very good at being depressed. And so getting that out and getting people talking about it and
Mhm.
getting close clients of mine who've known me maybe through the years, or have seen me speak or have read my books, for them to realize that it's okay to not be okay.
Absolutely.
That was
Mm.
freeing, for me. That's freeing. It's opened up great conversations.
Mhm.
It's opened up maybe it's helped me be a little fearless, I think, on some things. It's okay to talk
Yes.
about that. And if we can get enough people opening up,
Absolutely.
oh,
Definitely.
wonderful things can
Mm.
come from it.
You introduce a concept in the book called Instinctual wellness. What is that?
It is. So we use a lot of nature in the book. A lot of looking at animals.
Okay.
The character, his bedroom
Mhm,
looks out over the farmyard and over the into some meadows, and he watches owls at
mhm.
night and different animals the different scenarios. Even a fox catching its breakfast for the morning. A fox never read a book about how to catch a small rodent in the field, and he, it was
Yes.
in them. It was instinctual, and so I think in our day and
Mm,
age, if we can slow down enough to start to think about what do I need to get in me? What are the right things that I need to be practicing right every day? That to the point that it becomes instinctual,
yes,
that when we
definitely.
feel that desire to be depressed for some
Mm,
reason, that instinct kicks in and it doesn't happen. And and so when we can get our response to
mhm.
depression or anxiety or fears or eating or whatever it is we're challenged with, when we can get our responses to be instinctual because we've practiced them and learned them and understand them, that's the term that's where instinctual wellness came from. Thanks for asking about that. I think it's an important
Okay, that's brilliant.
concept for us to build on.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Jim, you have given us many tools, daily steps, and tips on depression. What is the most important takeaway?
Keep learning. Just be open to learning and talking about it, and awareness. Again, as we said, we're our best laboratory, and if we're willing
Mm,
to be aware and willing to be honest with ourselves, that I think that's the takeaway. That's what the book the book is like a roller coaster. It's up and down, emotional, um, but I
mm,
think what the book causes us to do, and what all books should do, is cause us to think. And the best thing I think I could do for a
yes.
reader who's reading it is interrupt their thinking every now and then. If we can cause them to think, and because they're
Mhm,
reading the book, they're thinking
mhm.
through it and applying it, we can all get better together, and that's an important thing.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Where can the listeners find you online, your book? What's your website, Jim?
www.jphorizons.com will take you to the website of a
Hmm.
retired depressed motivational speaker, and then Amazon is where the depressed motivational speaker can be found, along with the other books, my other books. Lots of YouTube videos out there, and other podcasts and webinars that I've done through the years. So we're out there. My email address is jim@jphorizons.com. Even if it's to email and say hi, that would be great.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing your insightful wisdom and knowledge, and by doing the work on yourself so that you can make the difference for the world. I really like to acknowledge you for that, Jim.
Thank
Jim
you, Anita.
Paluch.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for what you're doing.
My final question to you is, because we are all about Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast here. What is your definition of courage?
That's a wonderful question, and I think it's having the ability to take action and make a difference for people who may never know that it was you that took action and made a difference. And when we think back through history of all the great things that have taken place, so that we can have this opportunity here today to meet that person that did that, it was because they did it. And so all of us have that opportunity to take action and make a difference, make that choice.